You are driving on the roadway and hear a siren behind you. You should A. Stop where you are. B. Pull over to the right and stop. C. Speed up to get out of the way. D. Slow down. B. Pull over to the right and stop. When you hear the siren or see the flashing lights of an emergency vehicle coming from behind your vehicle, you must create a clear path for the emergency vehicle and stop. Reduce your speed and safely pull over to the side of the road. If the emergency vehicle is directly behind your vehicle when you are in heavy traffic, keep moving slowly until you can get out of its way. An approaching driver fails to dim their high-beam headlights. Where should you look? A. At the wheels of the approaching vehicle. B. Toward the right side of the road. C. Toward the left side of the road. D. Straight down the middle of the road. B. Toward the right side of the road. If an approaching driver fails to dim their high beams, glance toward the right side of the road. This will keep you from being blinded by the other vehicle's headlights and will allow you to see enough of the road to stay on course until the other vehicle has passed. A driver under the age of the 18th of May use a cell phone while driving? A. At any time. B. If they are making an emergency call. C. To send a text message. D. If they are driving at a speed slower than 40 miles per hour. B. If they are making an emergency call. In the state of Massachusetts, it is against the law for a driver under the age of 18 to make a phone call while operating a moving vehicle, except in the event of an emergency. It is against the law for any driver to read or send text messages while driving. This sign means A. U-turns are prohibited. B. U-turns are permitted. C. Winding road ahead. D. Sharp left turn ahead. A. U-turns are prohibited. A regulatory sign displaying a red circle with a red slash through the middle indicates that a specific action is prohibited. U-turns are not permitted where this sign is posted.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
Before changing lanes on a multi-lane highway, you should A. Sound your horn. B. Turn on your headlights. C. Reduce your speed. D. Check your mirrors and blind spots. D. Check your mirrors and blind spots. Before changing lanes, you should look in your rear view and side mirrors to make sure no one is trying to pass you. You should also look over your shoulder to make sure that no one is in your blind spot. A no stopping sign means that, unless directed to do so by a police officer, you may stop only. A. Long enough to unload packages. B. To avoid conflict with other traffic. C. To discharge passengers. D. For less than 5 minutes. B. To avoid conflict with other traffic. A no stopping sign means you can only stop to obey a traffic signal, to obey a police officer, or to prevent a conflict with another vehicle. To safely pass a bicycle, you should A. Honk at the bicyclist to let them know you're trying to pass. B. Drive in the bicycle lane until you get a chance to pass. C. Slow down and give them as much space as possible. D. Rush ahead to pull in front of the bicyclist. C. Slow down and give them as much space as possible. When passing a bicyclist, slow down and give them as much space as you can. Bicyclists have much less protection than drivers of motor vehicles and they should not be crowded. Passing a bicycle too quickly can shift the bicyclist off course. What does a single dashed yellow line separating traffic mean? A. Drivers may pass if it is safe to do so. B. Both lanes travel in the same direction. C. Drivers may not pass. D. Drivers may pass, even if it could be dangerous. A. Drivers may pass if it is safe to do so. Yellow lines separate traffic moving in opposite directions. A single dashed yellow line in the center of a road indicates that vehicles traveling in both directions are permitted to pass. Drivers may only begin a pass if they will not interfere with any oncoming traffic. This sign means A. Continue at your current speed. B. You must stop ahead. C. Speeding is not allowed. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. This sign indicates that there is a traffic signal ahead. Drive below the posted speed limit when A. Anything makes conditions less than perfect. B. You see a police car. C. Entering a highway where there are other cars. D. You are on a 4-lane road. A. Anything makes conditions less than perfect. When the road is wet or slippery, when you cannot see well, or when anything else makes conditions less than perfect, drive below the posted speed limit. Even if you are driving within the posted speed limit, you can still be ticketed for driving too fast for conditions. What can you do to avoid the need to make emergency stops while driving in traffic? A. Honk your horn to make others aware of your presence. B. Look ahead and maintain a safe following distance. C. Drive in the right lane only. D. Drive more slowly than the flow of traffic. If an approaching train is near enough or going fast enough to be a danger, you must A. Slow down and proceed with caution. B. Not cross the tracks until the train has completely passed. C. Cross the tracks at your own risk. D. Find an alternative route across tracks. B. Not cross the tracks until the train has completely passed. You should look and listen for trains before crossing any railroad tracks. If an approaching train is near enough or going fast enough to be a danger, you cannot go across the tracks. This is true even if they have no signals or the signals are not working. This sign means A. Stop sign ahead. B. Lane closed ahead. C. Railroad crossing ahead. D. Traffic signal ahead. D. Traffic signal ahead. Warning signs are usually diamond-shaped with black markings on a yellow background. They alert drivers to upcoming hazards. This warning sign indicates that a traffic signal is ahead and drivers should prepare to react to a yellow or red light. When you see this sign, it means A. There is an object on the roadway. B. Traffic is coming from the right. C. The road is curving sharply to the left. D. There is a merge point ahead. C. The road is curving sharply to the left. Chevron signs like this indicate that the road curves sharply in the direction indicated by the chevron, in this case, to the left. There may be several chevron signs placed throughout a curve. If you are driving behind a motorcycle, your following distance should be at least A. 4 seconds, B. 3 seconds, C. 2 seconds, D. 1 second. A. 4 seconds. Increase your following distance to at least 4 seconds when following a motorcycle. If the motorcycle and its rider should fall, you will need extra distance to avoid the obstacle. If your vehicle begins to skid, you should A. Overcorrect. B. Turn your steering wheel into traffic. C. Turn your steering wheel in the direction you want to go. D. Release the steering wheel. C. Turn your steering wheel in the direction you want to go. If your vehicle begins to skid, remain calm. Steer in the direction that you want to go and try not to overcorrect. Defensive driving is A. Identifying dangerous driving situations and taking action to avoid accidents. B. Defending yourself against poor drivers by getting ahead of them in traffic. C. Following the vehicle ahead of you at a close distance. D. Quickly changing lanes and shifting in and out of traffic congestion. A. Identifying dangerous driving situations and taking action to avoid accidents. You drive defensively when you identify dangerous driving situations and take action before an accident occurs. Defensive driving helps prevent conflicts with aggressive, offensive, discourteous, careless, inattentive, impulsive, ignorant, or intoxicated drivers or pedestrians. When approaching a working snowplow. A. React the same as you would to any other motor vehicle. B. Assume they will allow you to have the right of way. C. Yield the right of way and exercise caution. D. Come to a complete stop until they are out of your line of sight. C. Yield the right of way and exercise caution. Yield the right of way to snowplows engaged in work on the roads. Use extra caution in approaching, overtaking, or passing maintenance vehicles and snowplows. Because of their traveling speed and size, snowplows tend to create large clouds of blowing snow that conceal the plow, making it invisible. A double solid yellow line down the center of a two-lane road indicates A. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. B. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. A. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. Yellow lines are used to separate traffic moving in opposite directions. Solid lines indicate that drivers are not permitted to pass. When approaching a pedestrian hybrid beacon with all of its lights darkened, you A. May proceed with caution. B. Must come to a complete stop before proceeding with caution. C. Must slow and prepare to stop. D. Must come to a complete stop and yield to pedestrians. A. May proceed with caution. A pedestrian hybrid beacon (PHB) allows pedestrians to safely cross a roadway. A PHB only operates when activated by a pedestrian. When all lights are dark, you may proceed with caution. A leaky exhaust system in your vehicle is dangerous because it can cause A. A loss of hearing. B. Pollution. C. Carbon monoxide poisoning. D. Poor engine performance. C. Carbon monoxide poisoning. The exhaust system carries exhaust gas out of the vehicle and prevents fumes from entering into the passenger compartment. To prevent carbon monoxide poisoning, keep your exhaust system free of leaks. Replace all defective parts immediately. This road sign means A. Sharp turn to the right. B. Double curve. C. Winding road. D. Pavement ends. C. Winding road. This sign indicates that the road ahead winds with a series of turns or curves. You may drink alcoholic beverages in a vehicle on a public highway. A. As long as you aren't driving. B. If you are riding in the back seat. C. If you are riding in the back of a pickup truck. D. Under no circumstances. D. Under no circumstances. It is against the law to consume or possess any alcoholic beverage while on a public road or sidewalk. Additionally, storing an open alcoholic beverage container in an area of a motor vehicle normally occupied by the driver or passenger is prohibited on any public road. You must pull over to the edge of the road and allow an emergency vehicle to pass. A. Regardless of your direction. B. Only if it is following you. C. Only if it is approaching you from the opposite direction. D. None of the above. A. Regardless of your direction. You must pull over to the right edge of the road and stop for an emergency vehicle with flashing lights, regardless of whether it is approaching you from behind or from the opposite direction. What is the first thing you should adjust, if needed, when you get into a car to drive? A. Your seat belt. B. The steering wheel. C. Your rearview mirror. D. Your seat. D. Your seat. When preparing to drive, you should first adjust your seat to ensure that you are in a comfortable position and can see the road clearly. Adjust your mirrors and steering wheel to be effective when your seat is fully adjusted.